Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning and salam Ramadan. Welcome to our first session of webinar series Captain of Industry, brought to you by Faculty of Engineering, University Technology Malaysia. We are initiating university industry collaboration during MCO to have a platform with our Captain of Industry to share their thoughts, way forward and challenges during post-COVID-19. Now we are streaming live from FB, Faculty of Engineering. Today we would like to welcome Mr. Shamsuddin bin Mohamed Yusof, Chief Executive Officer, Composites Technology Research Malaysia, with his topic today, Pandemic COVID-19, the Post-Challenge in Manufacturing Industry, Future-Ready Graduates, the Role of Industry. Without further ado, I would like to invite Yang Berusaha Profesor Dato' Engineer Dr. Muhammad Rafiq Haji Dato' Abdul Kadir, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, to introduce our captain today. Over to you, Dato'.
Thank you, Murni. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to our speaker, Mr. Shamsuddin Muhammad Yusof. And also a very good morning to all of you watching this Captain of Industry webinar live through our Faculty of Engineering Facebook. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much to our presenter today. Despite his busy schedule, can still slot an hour with us to share his experience leading CTRM and be appointed as our Captain of Industry. Let me give a brief introduction, a short biography of our presenter today. Mr. Shamsuddin Muhammad Yusof is the Chief Executive Officer for Composites Technology Research Malaysia Sdn Bhd, CTRM. He has been in manufacturing industry for almost 30 years, serving several multinational companies, namely JVC Electronics Malaysia Sdn Bhd, Western Digital Malaysia Sdn Bhd, and conglomerate DRB Highcom Malaysia Sdn Bhd. And he has been appointed as a member of Aerospace Malaysia Innovation Centre AMIC Board, Malaysian Aerospace Council, and AI Exchange CEO at Faculty Program 1.0, Learn from the Pros by the Ministry of Education Malaysia. So without further ado, I call upon Mr. Shamsuddin Muhammad Yusof. Over to you, Mr. Shamsuddin.
Waalaikumsalam. Alhamdulillah, yang berbahagia Datuk Profesor Dr. Muhammad Rafiq, Datuk Abdul Kadir. Thank you very much for your introduction. On behalf of CTRM and of course myself, first and foremost, we would like to thank UTM for inviting me for this session to enable me to share some of the things that what we are doing in the aerospace industry, particularly CTRM, which involve on composites. And of course, I would also like to take this opportunity to say Salam Ramadan to all the lecturers of UTM. Just for your information, I was the former graduates of UTM in 1988, pursuing in electronic and electrical courses. And of course, today I think I would like also to take this opportunity to thank my team because in order to allow us to have this session in a more focused and aligned environment, so allow me to share with you some of the slides that we have prepared today. So since it will take us through about 20 to 30 minutes to complete this session, I think I have about approximately also around 20 slides. There are certain slides of the page that I may go through a bit faster in the essence of time, but there are certain things that especially on the two main topics that we will talk about today, which is on the pandemic COVID-19, the post-challenge in manufacturing industry, as well as the future-ready graduates and the role of the industry and academics. That I will try to take a bit of my time, to explain. So the presentation today will cover several areas. The first, allow me to share with you about the journey of my career throughout these 30 years. And secondly, allow me to also introduce our company, Composite Technology Research Malaysia. We have prepared a profile for your consumption, as well as the two topics that I have mentioned earlier. So basically, I think throughout 30 years of my experience, I think I spent 14 years, in the first 14 years with electronics industry. I have served two multinational company, that is JVC Electronics Malaysia Sdn Bhd in Shah Alam. And after 11 years, I moved into what you call this hard disk drive technology, the IT-based industry, which is called Western Digital, for almost 2 years. And before joining local company, CS Metal Industry, which is situated in Klang, for about 4+ years. So entirely, I spent about 14+ years with electronic industry, covering the downstream and upstream process. When I said downstream, yeah, I'm referring on the components, manufacturing industry, covering metal stamping, injection molding, painting, and so on. While in JVC and Western Digital is more on the consumer electronics. JVC is involved with audio products manufacturing, encompassing radio cassette, MIDI hi-fi, as well as other audio system, while WD is on the hard disk drive technology. So after that, after completing the first 14 years, I moved into automotive in 2004, where I started again my career in PHN Industry Malaysia Sdn Bhd. It's also another metal stamping company, which involved with automotive. We produce car in lights of Proton, Pro2, as well as Honda, Suzuki, and the rest. We also in PHN, most of the parts that we produce is metal stamping base for body frames of car. And before I was appointed as the CEO in 2009 to head the Oriental Summit industry. So this is the first job that I been appointed as the head of company. So I began my career as a head of company in OSI, which also another stamping company. But the difference between PHN and OSI is involved with the undercarriage metal stamping parts, where involve a lot of safety related parts, like for example, axial parts. So as you jack up your car to see the underneath of the car, so all the metal, the big metal parts is produced by OSI, while PHN is more on the body parts like the door, and as well as the hood, trunk lid, frames and whatnot, and also as well as the floor parts. So after that, after finish my serving OSI until 2013, then I moved into high-com die casting for 6 months, which casting involved with the manufacturing of what you call these engine components. So it is made of casting, so it is slightly different from the previous two, which the two PHN OSI, they use metal stamping, but in casting we use molds and molds to actually to fabricate the parts. And after that, after 6 months in 2013, then I moved on into car assembly production in Pekan. So this is where I had the opportunity because of the joint venture project between the RB and Volkswagen. Because the early setup, they require someone to manage this. So I was tasked again to head the VW operation as well as the Mercedes plant operation in Pekan for 3+ years. And during that time, I think the first 1 year also I have Suzuki with me. So I have 3 generally brands with me that I have to manage under that operation in Pekan. And in 2016, somewhere around February, then when DRB Highcom, after the acquisition of CTRM in November 2013, then again I was given the opportunity to head this CTRM. So this is where I am today. So I would like to talk about, before I touch about CTRM, so allow me to brief you all about the Malaysian aerospace industry that we are in, because the government of Malaysia has identified that the aerospace industry as a strategic industry in 1990, way about 20+ years ago. And the aerospace industry today is able to generate about 12.7 billion. and it employs more than 21,000 skilled workforce today. So basically, in somewhere around 2015, the second blueprint was established by the Malaysia and launched by our Prime Minister. Okay, established by MITI and launched by our Prime Minister in Lima in 2015, where the aim is for this Malaysia Aerospace Industry Group in 2030 is to position Malaysia as the #1 aerospace nation in Southeast Asian region, as well as hopefully by the year 2030, the annual revenue is expected to grow by 55.2 billion. And of course, more than that, it is aimed to be able to generate about 32,000 high-income jobs. So let's go back a bit about DRB HiCom, because by virtue CTRM is the subsidiary of DRB HiCom. So I would like to explain our parent company. So DRB HiCom is involved in three main sectors, that is automotive, service and education, as well as property. So DRB HiCom basically is incorporated in 28 August 1990 and has been listed in Malaysia Bursa in 4th September 1992 with a market capitalization of RM 3.7 billion. Currently, the operating revenue as at 31st March 2019 is around 12.5 billion, and with a total asset of 42.7 billion ringgit. And currently, DRB has more than 55,000 workforce. So for CTRM, by virtue we are involved with the manufacturing activities for specific product that is composite. So currently, under the DRB HiCom reporting structure, we are actually been placed under the DRB HiCom Automotive Distribution, Defense and Manufacturing and Engineering Division, which I am currently as a CEO of CTRM, is reporting directly to the Chief of Operating Officer Corporate and Services, that is Datuk Jazli Muhammad Ramli. And he is as well as reporting to the Group Managing Director, which is Datuk Sri Said Fazal Alba. So for CTRM, basically, we have, as I mentioned, we have been incorporated on 20th November 1990 with Ministry of Finance Incorporated as its principal shareholders, where our strategic role is to develop the high technology based industry, namely the aerospace as well as the composites. And of course, our primary objective and obligation is clearly to take the lead in the developing of the advanced composite industry in Malaysia by developing people, capability, as well as products. So DRB HiCom acquired CTRM from the Ministry of Finance in last November 2013. Of course, our main business focus is mainly in aerospace and composite manufacturing. And currently, our land area size is about 58 acres across the 6 entire big buildings. And we are residing nearby to the airport, Batu Berendam, just beside the runway. And currently, our build-up area out of the 6 buildings is nearly 1 million square foot. And of course, we employ more than 2,700 employees as at 31st January 2020. So let me tell you a little bit about composite. Why this is, what is it all about composite? Because a lot of people didn't really know and understand what is composite about. So composite basically to serve as an alternative solution to metal. And of course, due to its characteristic, composite is extremely strong and lighter, more than metal. And of course, by us using this composite into the structure of aircraft, it will help the aircraft to become more lighter. Thus, will be able to contribute in terms of reducing the aircraft fuel consumption, so as well as the emission. So as you can see underneath the photo, under the Y, the weight reduction, if you compare 1-to-1 with any products that probably we will be developing by using composite, it is estimated that we can have the weight reduction around 20 to 50%. But of course, in terms of cost-wise, we will find the one-to-one pricing in terms of composite, it will be slightly higher. But for members actually interest, so I would like to explain that when you fly an aircraft, usually 50% of the cost is contributed by fuel consumption. So it is very important for us to ensure that we should try our best to design and to build the aircraft as lighter as possible. So with this, it will help to reduce the operating costs. So under the 45 years of composite evolution in aircraft, basically we can see that the application of composite in the aircraft has been actually very positive. We can see the new generation of aircraft since 2005, which started with A380. If you can see the 2005 A380, what we call a super jumbo double-decker aircraft, which Malaysian Airlines also have a few of it. But of course, I think due to its performance, it is not really that economical where it demands a high level of occupancy rate because this aircraft can house more than 500 people on board. So due to this, I think, and also I think the one that also owns a lot of this type of aircraft, A380, is Emirates Airlines. So we have been receiving the notice to cease the aircraft by Airbus. Airbus will cease its operation somewhere around next year, A380. But you can see that the content of the composite when they designed the A380 is almost reaching to 30%. But they are somewhere around 2014 and 15. You can see there are 3 type of aircraft that already achieving almost near to 50% region in terms of composite content. So that is the B787, Boeing 787 and A350 or Airbus 350. So both of these aircraft is what we call as a twin aisle aircraft beside the C series, or normally we call it a small regional jet. In terms of core business and global customer footprint, actually CTRM, we have 3 subsidiaries. The main one is CTRM Aero Composite, which contribute around 99% of our revenue today. And of course, we also did some development of new product under the CTRM Composite Engineering. We are currently working on the satellite communication products. We also in the process of developing, I think for the past 2 years, on the aircraft seats, where you know that a lot of this metal frame has been used as a structure on the seats. We are proposing some of the metal structure to be changed into composite as to make the aircraft lighter, because just imagine in one A320 aircraft, like the ones that have been used many by Asia, you can imagine that in one aircraft, we have about more than between 180 to 220 seats. So if you can mount or can change some of the metal structure of the seats into composites, apart from making it lighter, you can imagine the amount of revenue that can be generated from this exercise. And the third one is CTRM testing laboratory. So in order to make CTRM as a one-stop business center, so we have our own testing laboratory, not only to serve our internal needs, but also as well as to serve the external need, like in the oil and gas industry, as well as construction and etc. And of course, CTRM Group current revenue is almost reaching 1 billion. I think our best record in 2018-19, we have touched 953.2. But subsequently in 2019, because by virtue of our business calendar has been changed from normally April to March into January to December. So last year, we only record about 9 months. So with 731.48 million. So how we started, basically, I think before I mention anything, I would like to thank the previous government in the early days for having such a visionary plan. I think in 1990, that is where the MOF started the business. But of course, this is mainly to explore something that Malaysian government planned to explore, a new territory. So that is where in 1993, CTRM has sent a total of 35 Malaysian technical interns to Eagle, Australia in Perth to learn and explore the skill of manufacturing of the lightweight composite aircraft Eagle 150B, or the 2-seaters or 4-seaters aircraft. So during this time in Perth, the team from Malaysia has managed to manufacture and assemble about 44 sets of Eagle 150B aircraft. So that is how we started to learn. But subsequently, in 1996, another team was also been formed and been sent to US. That is where also we started to learn about another aircraft called Lance Air in US. And apart from learning the manufacturing and assembly of that aircraft, we are also having the opportunity to expose about the new technology of material, what we call as pre-preg material. So I will explain later about this pre-preg material technology. And with that experience and knowledge that has been equipped, and coupled with the pre-preg material technology that we have managed to learn from Lance Air, and that is where CTRM start, because the early days why we did not continue with the aircraft manufacturing and assembly. In view of the limited market that we have in Malaysia, I think the government have decided to transform the company into components manufacturing. So this is where actually CTRM begin to start our bid on the Airbus A300 commercial aircraft component, what we call as a fixed trailing edge, that we managed and successfully completed it and to deliver to our customer. So with that, actually somewhere around year 2000, if you can see, there's a remark underneath the year 2000, the Airbus A300, the first aerostructure program that we have successfully delivered in terms of quality, in terms of fulfilling the timing as well as the cost, that has been able to serve as a turning point to enable CTRM to capture more and more business over the years. And of course, today we are proud to say that we have today we have made present to almost all the aircraft that been built either by Airbus and Boeing, because currently this industry is actually we have the duopoly coming from Airbus and Boeing, and we have completed entirely about 22 programs with 13 aircraft model and of course one helicopter model with us that we manufacture for Airbus, which involve across 5 OEMs. So when I say OEMs, so Airbus, Boeing, we have in the likes of Embraer, Mitsubishi, and the rest. So these are the so-called OEMs. So these are some of the components that CTRM built, just to give you a better idea. I think on the A320, which AirAsia, I think Tony Fernandez ordered a lot. So I think we have A320, we have Shucklet, aileron, as well as movable fairing, and as well as spoilers. So those are the key parts that we produce for the single aisle. And then for the twin aisle, for A350, we also build some component, what we call as front spar, fan cowl, nose cap, as well as J-nose. And for the A400M, I think this is the one that involved with military aircraft, which Malaysian, our country bought about 4 aircraft sets from Airbus. We also built quite a number of parts. For this, we have vertical tailplane, as well as horizontal, as well as the fairings of this. So these are some of the parts that we built for A400M. And the other one is on the B787, or what we call as Dreamliner. We also have about 3 parts that we built for Boeing. that is the aft casket, as well as the fan cowl, and also the inner barrel outer skin or eyeboss. And for the helicopter H130 for Airbus, we also build the most complex part, what we call as fenestron. So in order for us to build the composite panels and products, surely we need all these capital equipment, or what we call as key equipments. So of course our pre-preg material actually require minus 18 degrees C to be preserved. So all across our building, we have about 7 freezers to store this equipment. So where we got this equipment from, all the equipment is coming all the way from UK. This is what we call as the advanced composite pre-preg material. So after we have defrost the material, or we do the towing process, so then the material will be sent to all the 7 ply cutters. And these 7 ply cutters that we have today is able to cut almost nearly 500 to 600,000 various shapes of panel per month. So this is what we call high-tech equipments, where most of it will use software for us to program on the shapes of the panels to be cut based on customer drawing that has been given to us. And of course, by using this high-tech equipment or cutting machine, and this is where the metal will be cut into with the operation of 2 shifts throughout 7 days a week. And then after we have completed cutting this composite material, which is come from the roll form, we then send to the layup rooms where we will do the hand layup process, where the composite will be actually laid one piece by piece, depending on the thickness specification by the drawing as defined by customer. Some we have to lay more than 50 to 50 layers, 4 to 50 layers. So it is important during this process, we ensure that there is no air entrapment in between the layers. So this is been done by almost 650 workforce that we have, okay, throughout the factory. And then after we have completed this process, then we will send to autoclave. So I think we are about to approach Raya. So if you all can imagine that how we bake a cake, that will be very simple, you know. So after that, we will bake the composite. We send the mold in together with the composites panels that we have been able to shape according to the molds, and we will apply 180 degrees Celsius temperature with 5 to 8 bar pressure. So based on the curing cycle, some will take about between 8 to 18 hours, depending on the curing recipe. So after that, the material will be taken out, and that is where later we will send to another CNC machines, where all the panels will be cut by this high-tech equipment, what we call Chronos, in accordance to the shape and spec that has been defined by drawing. And after that, it will go through the non-destructive testing machine, or simply as a layman, we can say that this is an X-ray machine, to ensure that every single panel will be scanned and X-ray, to ensure that there is no bubble in between the layers. That means no air entrapment, as well as there is no FOD, or foreign object or foreign material in between the layers. And then later, once this has been passed, it will then send those panel which is required to be sprayed. It will then be sent to the spray booth. So now I will talk about our today's subject. That is basically the pandemic COVID-19 post-challenge in manufacturing industry. So the first 2 pages of today will cover about the pre-COVID. It is important for me to share with you about what is the potential of the aerospace industry prior to this COVID-19 outbreak. So as this is some of the data that we actually gathered from Airbus Global Manufacturing Forecast previously. So according to this report, the world aircraft demand projection is expected to reach about 37,400 aircraft units that we need to build within the next basically 20 years. That is from 2018 until 2030. So this is what has been projected. So we will, so this statistic or this data is just to tell everyone that we can imagine that I've been in the past 3 industry and today I am in the aerospace sector. Among the sector that I have involved, this is supposedly to be the most promising sector that can offer a continuous growth. Okay, this is based on the last 45 years data that we can see that without fail, and at every 15 years, throughout the 45 years, that means the 3 cycle, that the growth has been doubled. So that based on that data, actually we can see that currently the total aircraft is about 20,450. But as we move forward into 2037, we can expect that the requirement of the new aircraft based on the passenger traveling will increase to 26,540. So that is to cater the growth market, while 10,850 is expected to replace the old aging aircraft, because for those aircraft has reached more than 20 years old, that is definitely due to be replaced, because in order to ensure that the safety standards is always not been compromised. While the 10,600 is basically that is will remain as the current for the current aircraft. So entirely from this data, we can see that the requirement of the new aircraft to be built in the next 20 years is around 37,390 aircraft. And of course, the small segment, if you can refer to the notes on your left, is actually represent around 76%. So when we say about the small segment, similar like our shirt, we have S size, we have M size, L size, and XL size. So for the S and M is basically representing the single aisle. So the one that the most famous aircraft that we have today, what we call as the volume driver, is actually on the S size, which is currently is around 28,550 from the total projection of 37,400, which is this is the one currently is AirAsia has been buying a lot, as well as others low cost carrier. While the M size, or probably the twin aisle, is around 15%. Okay, and the rest basically. So of course, it is also expected that the Asia Pacific region, knowing that Asia Pacific moving forward is the traveling is expected to grow by almost 42%, and of course we are expecting more and more aircraft will be purchased by the many airliners, noting that this Asia Pacific region is one of the area that will be buying more aircraft. Of course, the emerging country like India, like Indonesia, as well as China at this moment. Of course, China, as you all know, is also in the midst of building their own aircraft, what we call as COMAC 919, 929. By virtue, this will take more time, maybe probably 8 to 10 years from now. So they are currently still depending on Airbus and Boeing to supply the new aircraft to them. So in terms of the industry outlook, actually the aviation industry or the aerospace industry, just before the pre-COVID, we assume it is really a robust industry. It has gone through many crises before, from 1977 until today. It has gone through the oil crisis, financial crisis, the 9/11, SARS outbreak, and so on. So you can refer to the chart, you can see. But as I mentioned earlier, throughout every 15 years for the past 45 years without fail. This industry has demonstrated a significant growth. However, I think when we start to gather more data last year, towards the end of the last year, from IATA. IATA is the International Air Transport Association. So from the statistic that we have gathered last year, we noticed that the overall traveling and air cargo volume growth has been declining at a slow pace. So we can see that from 2017, 2018, and 2019, while the blue color is representing the air travel or RPK, what we call as revenue passenger per kilometer growth, and the other one, FTK, is actually representing for the cargo or the freight business. So both actually has indicated some slowdown prior to this COVID-19 outbreak. So what will happen after this COVID-19? So we did also gather more data from the various sources, international sources, and based on this study, of course, we compared to the previous epidemic or pandemic that the world has experienced, for example, like SARS, as well as the financial crisis, as I mentioned earlier. And when we compare the COVID-19, we have two segments here. We compare COVID-19 that has been actually experienced by China, where they took, actually you refer to the red colored graph, almost only 6 months to recover. And of course, as at today, since the outbreak commenced in China somewhere around December or early January, I think as far as China is concerned, as at today, they have managed to revive their domestic economic activity, including their domestic air travel, currently, which has almost reaching around between 40 to 50% at this moment. This is based on what Airbus has informed us. And of course, unfortunately, since this is what COVID-19 has now almost infected more than 200 countries all over the world. So it has been actually recognized by WHO as the pandemic that what actually the world community has to face today. So with this, I think we foresee it will take quite some time to enable for the US side and Europe to recover. I think as at this morning, I think based on the latest statistic, what we have experienced and based on the report that we received, we have about close to 4.2 million people has been infected worldwide, and the death toll has reached to more than 286,000 as at this morning. So you can imagine that the how serious and how severe the pandemic has actually affected all the country. And of course, this will take some time definitely, and of course the recovery will be very, very much uncertain now. So this is another data that I would like to show with you, that the source data that we gathered from one of our international research center. So among these are all the so-called major airliners that currently from the 17 major airlines that we have actually gathered in terms of the reports and statistic. For example, in Europe, we have around 5 major airlines over there, and we have some in US in lights of American Airlines, Delta Airlines, United Airlines. So these are all the so-called common aircraft that we CTRM folks used to travel, because by virtue we are dealing with the global supply chain and global customers. So this job, of course, definitely requires us to travel everywhere around the globe. So we can see that the first column indicating the grounding of the fleet. So all these major airliners actually currently has grounded between 50 to almost 100% of their aircraft. So this is how severe that the epidemic, the pandemic of COVID-19 has hit very hard, which has in a way, we can say that it has crippled the entire aviation industry at this moment. Okay, and which also because of this has led to the lockdown by almost many countries today in order to avoid any potential imports of COVID-19 pandemic that probably can be transmitted through the traveling activity by the many visitors or even by their own citizen. And I think the effect of this actually has caused some of the major airliners to actually lay off some of their workforce. We can see that almost 80% has started to initiate the layoff of their workforce. I think Boeing, Airbus also not excluded. I think last week we received almost a few thousands of their employee has been laid off or going into the process what we call furlough. And of course, some of the employees also has undergo a pay cut beside other things that currently the company is looking into on how to ensure that the company can survive through this crisis mode. So as a result of the impact of the COVID-19 to the aviation industry, as I mentioned earlier, so I think the most significant one is many major airlines has today grounded aircraft, and of course, many airliners now in the talks with Airbus and Boeing to probably defer and even cancel some of the aircraft order. So despite that, currently, as I mentioned to you, based on the earlier data, we can see that actually this industry without the COVID-19 is so robust that all of us has been working very hard for the many years in manufacturing or looking into manufacturing all the components for this aircraft. Because before the COVID-19, the A320 backlogs is actually around, backlog orders is around 7 to 8 years. So you can imagine the prospect and the prospect that can be offered by this industry in terms of not only business, but as well as creating more employments. And today, actually, as a result of COVID-19, not only we have the grounding of aircraft by the major airlines, we have aircraft cancellation, but we also have this air traffic volume. Of course, when every country has done the lockdown, where they will not allow anybody to travel. So of course, we can see that the air traffic volume has plummeted. And of course, this has reached to a very unprecedented level. Okay. And of course, in view of this, I think we have not having any vaccine today. And of course, by virtue that the industry will be going through a very difficult time and the recovery will take longer than what it is expected. So of course, some of the company may enter into bankruptcy. So this is what we are looking at. So this is at this moment, I think only company organization that have strong cash flow will be able to probably pull through this crisis. So, but of course, it all depends on how soon the vaccine can be developed, and if probably in 1 year itself, we can see that already many airliners will go through a lot of suffering, and a lot of them will start to file bankruptcy. And beside that, we are also looking at the escalation of unemployment rate or the furlough by most of the airliners. So we can see that those are the statistics coming from Spain, US, as well as France. The number is quite scary, because this what we see today is only is at the preliminary stage, but probably as we move along, after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to 12 months, the number probably will further escalate. So this is what actually worrying us. So the challenges of the manufacturing industry in actually comprehending the COVID-19, of course, some of the item that what come across my team and me, first is on the recovery is very much uncertain at this moment, as I mentioned, for as long as we cannot know clearly when the vaccine can be finally developed by the scientists, and a lot of people is estimating around 9 to 12 months. But looking at the current trend, probably as mentioned by, I think, every day we heard from KKM, the vaccine development probably may take around 1 year to probably 2 years time. So with this, of course, we can expect that in view of the grounding of the many aircraft by the airliners, and surely for company like CTRM who involved with manufacturing activities, our manufacturing activities is very much triggered by new aircraft delivery. So for this, I think we will be having quite a difficult time where, of course, as many airliners has asked to defer or to cancel orders, so we can assume that the volume of production will be reduced tremendously. So as at today, based on the latest forecast that we received from all our tier 1's customer, our orders has reduced more than 40% at this moment. So that's why I think we can also imagine that, of course, we used to be almost our revenue to be almost at 1 billion. But actually, moving forward for this year, we are anticipating that the revenue definitely will be impacted by nearly 400 million. And on the second item is on the managing surplus of capacity. So when we've been hit hard by the reduction of orders, that means, and you know, for any company to make entry into this type of industry, this is a highly capital intensive industry. You can imagine the amount of capex that we have to fork out in order to make entry into the business. For CTM today, we have more than almost close to 400 million in terms of assets and equipment. So it is not easy for us to break even, because this industry requires a long gestation period for any business that you start to venture. So with this excess capacity, definitely will pose a great challenge to us. Of course, all our major equipments, our key assets that we have invested will experience a lot of excess capacity. So of course, on top of that, we also need to be on the lookout to look after all the problematic suppliers. As this goes by, those suppliers that having not able to maintain their cash flow, probably they will start to get into trouble. So I think they will not be able to not only pay their suppliers, but probably also their employees. So that is why I think one of the drastic measures that has been taken by some of the airliners is to immediately lay off some of the employee in order to stop the bleeding. Other than that, I think, as you know, that this industry is highly regulated industry where safety standard is paramount. So of course, many of the organization that involve, or many companies that involve in this business is spending a lot, especially our tier 1 like Spirit Aerosystem, Collins, as well as JKN and Sonaka and so on. They spend a lot on R&D, research and development, or even research and technological development investment in developing the future technology. Of course, the aim and focus is how to make the aircraft more lighter than what it is today, in order for them to reduce further their operating costs. But not only that, but also they are looking into various ways and means on how to reduce the fuel consumption of the aircraft by improving the engine performance and whatnot. And of course, because of the COVID-19, actually, for this R&D will be affected. I think most companies will stop the activity at this moment in order to preserve the cash money as much as possible. Other than that, we also can see that, and also we anticipated more cost down pressure will be coming to the OEMs from the airliners. So of course, many airliners would expect the price of aircraft to be reduced or more cheaper. And of course, due to that, Airbus and Boeing will have to expect that more cost down coming from the airliners. And subsequently, this will also come to tier 1 and as well tier 2 like CTRM. And as I mentioned earlier, we still actually waiting for the vaccine that has been mentioned almost every day now. But of course, this is still at the clinical testing stage, and because of this will take some time, and of course we will not know what we need to do. But it's like, but at least, but of course, we need to learn how to adapt to what we call as the new normal life, where of course every now and then we have to use our face mask in order to protect ourselves and not, and also as well as to protect our people. As mentioned by KKM, almost every day now we need to maintain our social distancing, and of course we should not be getting into any group gathering, as well as the rest of the thing that of course we have to always daily wash our hands or sanitize our hands. So these are the so-called new normal thing. But what the thing that puzzles us, if this COVID-19 pandemic were to continue and we will need to continue this industry without any vaccine. So I couldn't imagine that how the aircraft of single aisle of 180 to 200 seaters will need to be reduced the occupancy by half. That means you can only house about half of the 200 or 180. That means you can only load about 90 to 100 passenger in order to maintain the protocol of safe distancing. Because even now, for local carrier like AirAsia and so on, for them to be able to break even, probably they need to make sure that they have to have almost 100% occupancy, or maybe to the least of 90%. So if this were to continue, you can imagine that the impact that able to be created by the airliners. Of course, airliners will suffer a lot if they have to restrict the number of load of passengers that are going to get into the aircraft. So this is will be very, very impractical. And then, of course, the last part is about maintaining the skilled workforce. So, of course, we have to go through this. Maybe probably some of our skilled workforce we may lose in order to ensure that we need to do some drastic measures in ensure the sustainable of the company. Now, I would like to share with you on the second part of the presentation, of course, about the role of the industry and academics as regard to the future ready graduates. So I can only talk to you about what we have done in CTRM. Of course, our collaboration between ourselves as well as the academia involve 4 areas. Number 1 is the curriculum embedment. The second on the subject matter expert sharing. The third on the industrial placement as well as the strategic partnership. On the curriculum embedment, we have several platforms that we have kickstart. For example, we have established our diploma in degree in composite with our DRB Highcom University. It took us almost 3 years to complete this exercise, because noting that, you know, in Malaysia, there's no university yet except probably KKTM, which is the small IPT that offers this, but even that is only at the level of certificate as well as diploma. So in order to ensure that not only this can be offered to public, but also as part of our company, it is important for us to ensure that we create the career development for our employees. So that is why we have collaborated with the DRB Highcom University in developing this diploma in degree, because many of our staff, the entry level to this composite industry is technician. That means either you are from SKM2 or SKM3. So this is where the level of entry is required. But of course, other than that, we also look into those other courses. But if happen that they are coming from different from composite, what they have to go through some training, which later I will share with you. And other than that, our company also have been endorsed by has been endorsed to develop the National Occupational Skills Standard or NOS curriculum by Ministry of Higher Education. We basically has developed from SKM level 1 until SKM level 5. So of course, other than that, on the subject matter expert sharing, we also have our lecturer attachment program with our DRB High Community as well as UTEM and IPTs like KKTM as well as IKBN. So we are working with them, and the lecturer attachment program, probably those lecturers who are interested to produce their research papers. So normally they will be attached with CTRM for a number of months or probably 1 year to prepare those things. So of course, normally CTRM will assist and provide our cooperation in helping them in preparing those. And beside that, we also have SME attachment to institute. SME stands for the subject matter expert, where some of our staff is qualified to run this SKM level 1 and SKM level 5. We deploy them to the various institutes, but at this moment we have 2 universities that has been engaging our staff for those diploma and degree that we have developed for the composite curriculum. So some of our staff is actually qualified to run this some of the syllabus for that. And in terms of industrial placement, we also have 4 of them. We have CEO faculty program. We also have talent exchange program. I think this is the one that from UTM, we have Dr. Haris that has undergone this training. Dr. Haris is one of the lecturer from your faculty of engineering. Basically, he has completed 6-month attachment with us, as well as we have the apprenticeship and internship program that we offer outside and also for internal. So basically what we are trying to explain to everyone that all these syllabus and curriculum that we have developed jointly with those higher institution as well as university is not only meant to cater for CTRM needs, but also for the entire aerospace industry in Malaysia. And the last one is on the strategic partnership. We also working with some of College Kemahiran Tinggi Mara on some of the innovation activity. We happen to try to develop some of the parts that we used to purchase from overseas. We work that together with KKTM and with the support by AMIC. AMIC stands for Aerospace Malaysia Innovation Center, where the technical expert is actually from Airbus. So, and apart from this, we are also working with UTEM. This is a tripartite activity between UTEM, supplier, industry, where we have actually tried to turn our carbon waste from scheduled waste into a recyclable material. So this is what we also doing at this moment. So this page is talking about the another collaboration program, what we call as 2U2I. As I mentioned earlier, this is the program that we have actually developed together with DRB High Community, which took us almost 3 years to complete this exercise. So the process, of course, initially we kick off with the discussion. We will try to relate all our experience in this composite industry as part of the process in developing the syllabus. Of course, in 2018, we signed the MOU with the DRB High Community. And then upon the completion of the development of the module and syllabus, we then submit those for it to be approved by MQA. And Alhamdulillah, we have gotten the approval from MQA. And today, we can proudly say that the DRB High Community is qualified to run the diploma in Engineering Technology of Aerospace Composite, as well as the Bachelor of Engineering Technology in Aerospace Composite Manufacturing, DCM. So these are the 2 syllabus that we have developed. Other than that, we also have some collaboration activity with JPK as well as Mara. So this is what we call as apprenticeship program. which the duration is approximately 10 months, with 3 months on theory and 7 months on on-job training with CTRM. Under this, actually will focus on SKM level 2, 3, and diploma. Diploma in aerospace composite manufacturing. So, of course, we also, as we are running this program, they will be funded by either Yayasan Peneraju Pendidikan Bumi Putra or Yayasan Pelajaran Mara YPM, as well as the Jabatan Pembangunan Kemahiran. So those are the funders that actually will involve. And we also would like to inform everyone that as at today, we have successfully completed a total of 58 batch of students that have graduated with a total number of almost 3,105 as at today. So with that, I think I would like to end this webinar session, and with that also I would like to open the Q&A session, if any, to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shamsuddin, with your awesome sharing with us. Now we have a Q&A session. So far, we have a few interesting questions from our viewers to our captain. We are trying our best to share all the questions today. Okay, we start with Mr. Dr. Ain Lutfi Abdul Latif. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What are the biggest challenges faced by CRM and other aerospace industry players in Malaysia in growing the industry in this country? And what are the actions taken and the requirements to address such issues?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I think I will try to reply this on two scenarios. That is prior to the pre-COVID, and after that we will talk about the post-COVID again. So I think the company, my company CTRM, and of course together with the Maya, Malaysian Aerospace Industry Association, as well as the member of aerospace industry. I think for the past few years, I think in response to the government aspiration, we have been traveling extensively in promoting our country, because knowing that Southeast Asia, and particularly Malaysia, is always been well known as one of the most competitive region in terms of cost. So by using that, we are actually trying to leverage our position, and of course we have been doing a lot of presentation in meeting all our clients, and we have attended many global air shows such as Paris air shows, Farnborough air shows, and many global aerospace summit for the past 2-3 years. So because as you know, as I mentioned earlier, this industry more or less is in a way is quite settled in terms of the entry level of the entrance of new suppliers. The reason being because for the new entrants will be quite tough, quite difficult, because as you know, the business is not really moving at a very fast pace like electronic as well as automotive industry in terms of the business expansion. This no doubt that based on the statistic that I have presented to you in terms of the growth rate without fail for the past 45 years, 15 years for the tricycle, it offers a very promising growth. But in reality, in terms of this industry itself is quite mature. The supply ecosystem is actually quite settled. They have already all the players in place. It's just a matter that whoever can offer the best quality, the best cost, and probably that will trigger the current tier ones customer or even the OEMs to look into what probably the transfer of work that need to be done from the current incumbent that they are in purchase to the new one. So this is why important that in managing this business, we have to make sure that we always maintain our position. Not only we have to have the best quality in place, but also we have to make sure that we have best quality. We are able to offer best quality. So I think because of the hard work that we have done for the past 2 years, Alhamdulillah, Airbus has actually recognized CTM effort, and that is where I think you can see that in one of the slides, CTM has able to secure in 2017, 18, 19 the Airbus Award for 3 consecutive years. So this is how we position ourselves in promoting. But for us to penetrate the business, by virtue that, as I mentioned, the industry has quite settled down, it is quite difficult and very challenging. Unless until we are some of the customer is experiencing some problems with their existing suppliers, or some what they used to mention as mediocre supplier. So this is where actually sometimes the opportunity lies. So, and of course, when you want to get into this business, you must be having strong financial support. Strong financial background. And for us, I think CTRM, we have been very grateful. I think when government started this industry, I think the government have supported a lot. And of course, I think through this initiation, now it become our turn how to continue to grow this. And of course, we have done a lot of investment in terms of time, effort, and money in promoting. Of course, now we are waiting for opportunity to come. But unfortunately, when we've been hit by the COVID-19, now probably the scenario is a bit different because as orders has reduced in average more than 40%, I think based on last month data, that in a way has caused the opportunity that we supposed to have become more challenging. But we always believe that every problem lies opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, if you notice in my slide, as many companies now, we are expecting and anticipating that will face lots of problem. There might be some of them might throw their towel, may decide not to continue. That probably something that CTRM need to be on the lookout for any potential opportunity for us to work very closely with our tier 1 customer like Spirit and Colin, as well as the OEM itself like Airbus and Boeing, for us to offer our current capacity that we deem a lot, and to position ourselves as one of as the number 1 aerospace industry, particularly in composite in this region. So this is the thing that I want to explain a bit. So there is still opportunity for us, but it's just a matter that we have to wait a little bit. But what is important now, what we need to look is how soon the aviation industry can start resuming their activities, because without those activity, there will be no aircraft flying. And when there is no aircraft flying, then you can see that, there will be a lot of aircraft on the ground, and of course airliners will not be ever willing to invest on the new aircraft, to purchase on the new aircraft. So as a result, this might create some side effects to our short term, probably, but in the long term, I think as what we have presented, we are quite optimistic that industry probably can still recover, but not as soon as within 1 year, probably within the next 2 to 3 years. So this is how probably from my personal point of view and based on the data that we have gathered and presented just now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shamsuddin. So we go to next questions from Hamizan Usman. Under lockdown scenario at USA and Europe, any business opportunity that CTRM try to venture?
I think under the current situation, we almost can't do anything. Not only CTRM, I think for the many global players, because by virtue our business model is involved in the manufacturing of components or panel of composite that to supply to all these tier 1s and OEM. for as long as I think we cannot have the vaccine ever ready in the market, I think this will be quite difficult for any country to start opening their border to allow the air travel. So, because I think, as you know, even until today, there are several countries is experiencing the second wave. You know, even like Korea and Japan, even they have almost able to celebrate. And even I think I came across some news in China, in Wuhan, there are signs of the COVID-19 cases. If I'm not mistaken, about 19 cases they have detected yesterday throughout these few days. So it looks like the whole entire episode of COVID-19 at this moment will never end for as long as we don't have the vaccine ready to be used. And definitely, I think no country will dare to open their border for air travel, and thus this will definitely will affect the entire aviation industry. So for that, I think in a way, at this current moment, that will definitely deprive any opportunity of business, because even today, you know, we used to be physically hold our meeting with customers face to face. You know, I think it will not be appropriate for us to have or have our meeting most of the time online like this, because I think the best is actually to see face to face. But under current circumstances, we can. There's nothing much we can do. But of course, I think the answer to that is very, very difficult at this moment. Yeah, for us to have any access of any new business.
Yeah, we understand that. Okay, so the next question is from Oi Chow Hong. Good morning and salam sejahtera, Mr. Shamsuddin. COVID-19 crisis had been a huge downturn in economic activity. Many people lost their job as the companies face financial issue. For fresh graduates and intern with no experience, they are less likely to get a job during this period. Will CTRM put off recruiting fresh graduate and intern this year?
Okay. Thank you for the question again. Basically, I think our internship program or practical trainings or internship program will still continue. I think as a Malaysian, I think knowing our roots, where this company came from, I think it has always been our obligation to ensure that we are able to provide the training platform or on-job training as well as the practical training for all the students. But of course, in terms of opening opportunity for job, that will be a different subject matter entirely. Because at this moment, I think, as I mentioned earlier, of course, the whole entire CTM management, I think prior to the COVID, we are working very hard in expanding our business. In fact, we have already built the sixth factory. If you can see from the slide that I have presented earlier, I think last year we have spent 100, almost close to 140 million. But of course, now the factory is still empty because the idea is actually to house any potential new business that probably we managed to secure. So that is our new building, which is entirely empty at this moment. So we have been working hard in ensuring that we're able to secure business in order to create new job employment. Because you can see that our revenue growth for the several years, for the past several years has been growing, if not much, but at least not less than 5% year-on-year basis. However, I think due to the COVID-19, we have to change our approach and strategy. But of course, for the training, for the student attachment for practical training, interns and whatnot, I think that we can still continue and we will support on that. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shamsuddin. Okay, the next question from Ahmad Ridwan. How do you develop your managerial and leadership skills? What quality of leadership is required to handle such a big and global company like CTRM?
Uh, firstly, I think I have to say that I have to thank the Almighty Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, I think I started with the right footing. Of course, when I finished UTM in 1988, I think our country is still in recession. There's not much of job available to offer, especially for us, the JPA student. We just grab whatever that we can secure at that particular moment. And of course, I started my career with a Japanese company. I served the Japanese company like JVC for 11 years. I think that in a way has able to mold me and to prepare me for the future to what I am today. I think Japanese institution is still the best, okay, institution, because it is being very regimented. It demands you to be more disciplined in terms of your work activity and execution. And of course, it stress a lot on time management, because this is where I think many of us sometimes we take such a thing for granted. But and also I think apart from the Japanese, I also had the exposure in working with the Americans in Western digital as well. So the combination of this, the blend of this has in a way helped me to be exposed on the different style of management. And of course, I also would like to thank to many of my bosses, which I cannot mention them one by one, because there are many of them in the list. They have been actually the one who has been instrumental in providing many guidance, coaches, as well as support to me during the process of developing my managerial skill throughout the many years in my career. And of course, there are risks associated to this, as you move along, because I'm not sure whether anybody that I knew since throughout the 30 years, I can see that most of them usually have to experience or have to face many challenges before they can be what they are, or before they can be very successful. I'm not saying that I've been already a successful man. There are many things that every day is a learning process for me. Moving into one factory to another, this is the 8th assignment throughout my 30 years. I'm still learning every day and even today. So, but what is important is actually we must have the good determination and readiness to go through the process of what we call learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this is important. So for as long as we have that, and we are able to persevere, and we have the determination, and of course the value that we must inculcate to us is the value of sincerity, honesty, and of course at the same time, as a Muslim, I think we should not neglect our religion, what is actually demand from us. So I think with that, I think and the more important is our ability to raise to the requirement and the expectation of the challenges. This is important. So if we have all the quality and desire, and I think we should be able to pull through. I think this is one of the things that what has been the principle has been I hold until today.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shamsuddin. Okay, this is the last question from our viewer, Mr. Kanan Paramal. Let's say the pandemic ends in December. How long do you think will take for CTRM to recover the lag time?
As I mentioned, you know that currently the vaccine is being developed, and there are 200 over countries has been infected by this. And I think we, Malaysia being the small country, we have to compete with a big country like US and Europe, who is more at the forefront, and they have the money power to actually involve with the research and development of this vaccine. And as you know, I do not want to criticize so much because we are online now. But I think, of course, I believe it will be very difficult for us, for as long as we don't have vaccine ready in the market, and the country, those countries that have that start to subscribe to this vaccine for their citizens. I think many countries countries will have the fear to allow visitors to come into their country. So probably even so, they will have to go through many restrictions, many filtering, many screenings. So this is the process that we need to go through. So the traveling will not be that easy. So as such, I think even assuming that by end of the year, the vaccine is being made available, what is important is people desire to travel because how they're going to overcome the fear and sentiment of this COVID-19 probably will take some time. And looking at that, probably I think it will take another between 1.5 years to 3 years probably to see the real recovery. But even I think even there are many people, analysts has been talk about this. Even we can see that probably the recovery momentum will be there, but to expect our situation to be as to achieve to the level of the pre-COVID-19 will still take time. Will still take time. So probably we can see a gradual recovery, but will not be able to reach the situation where we were before prior to the COVID-19 outbreak. So this is what. But for CTRM, I think for as long as we can manage to secure our revenue around probably around 600 to 700 million, that should be able to allow us to sustain in the next in the many years to come. Yeah. So of course, if we can surpass 1 billion, that is a remarkable achievement, because this is what I and my team is looking forward, because our responsibility is not only just to continue what the business that we have today, but our obligation and responsibility is to expand the business in order to be able to accommodate more and more employment for the country and for the graduate. So this is the spirit that we have today.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Shamsuddin, for your good and inspiring sharing with us. Despite of your busy schedule, so you are giving your precious time with us. We believe it would benefit to our students, staff, alumni, and our community as well. And inshallah, we will overcome this tough time during COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, with that, I would pass to Yang Berusaha, Dr. Rafiq, for your last words for our session today.
Okay. So my last word to all the
thank you, Murni. Mr. Shamsuddin, thank you so very much for sharing your experience as a CEO, leading CTRM and various other companies. We are extremely proud to have our own alumni leading such an important industry. By the way, you mentioned a couple of companies that you have worked with previously, PHN and OSI. Those are metal stamping companies. Just to mention that my first job after I graduated back in the year 1999 was Sextan Technologies Berhad, which is also a metal stamping company. I still remember those 600 tons equipment, that makes lots and lots of noises in the factory. Thank you again, Mr. Sham, for your willingness to join our Faculty of Engineering Captains of Industry. I really enjoyed looking at all your slides, very nice pictures of various types of aircrafts. And finally, thank you to all our viewers. I would like to ask all of you joining our session right now to like, comment, and share our Facebook. Yes, like, comment, and share our Facebook, because we have many more Captains of Industry CEOs webinar series for this month, and we have another webinar tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So don't forget to tune in, like, comment, and share our Facebook. Thank you very much. Over to you, Murni.
Okay, thank you, Marissa Dato, and also thank you, Mr. Sham, for your time with us. And also, thank you so much for our viewers today. It is always a pleasure for us for having our large number of viewers for our webinar Captain of Industry today. Please wait to our upcoming webinar with our next Captain of Industry, and surely with interesting issue. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share our program. With that, I would like to last but not least, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Salam Ramadan dan selamat berbuka puasa. Have a nice day. Bye.